It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. Welcome back to Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill, and today we are going to talk about why calories burned as a metric is absolutely useless when it comes to fat loss progression. And I know you might be like, what the heck? After every workout, I like to see how many calories I burned in my workout on my Apple Watch. I am here to tell you that even if your device was completely accurate, which it's not, it is still an irrelevant metric when it comes to manipulating your variables for effective and sustainable fat loss, and just genuinely getting results in the long run. So I know that's going to sting a little bit, but we want to explain why. And I think it's important to understand metabolism and how that works and what our calories burned actually means. And then you won't put so much pressure on calories burned. I cannot think of a time since maybe like 2014 that I've looked to see how many calories I burned when I was in a workout, and that was back in my Orange Theory days where I was literally pushing myself because I thought as long as I left sweaty and sore and exhausted and barely able to walk, that meant I was getting better progress. Little did I know I was really wasting a lot of energy in those moments. So
yes. Okay. So let's talk about energy expenditure. I go back to this all the time. I think I have a recent post on my Instagram if you want to see a chart of this, or Google daily energy expenditure broken down. But your base metabolic rate is the thing that is burning the most calories all the time in our body. It is not our exercise energy burned. So if you look at 100% of energy burned in a day, about 70% of it is your BMR. That is the calories burned, just like carrying your body around. Okay. So just living here and existing. Now, we can increase that number. That's 70%. We can increase how many calories are burned just sitting around, not exercising, by adding muscle mass, by improving our hormone function with rest and circadian rhythm and proper vitamins and nutrients and minerals and whole foods, by improving our bone density, right? By giving our body more tissue that takes energy to carry around. That is going to be the biggest bang for your buck. And that is trackable when we see that somebody is eating more and more and they're not gaining any body fat, right? Like that's how we know that their metabolism is improving. We spend our first 3 or 4 months with clients not cutting calories at all, just trying to improve their base metabolic rate through methods of building muscle. Building muscle and adding recovery really are the two really big rocks that we can turn over to impact this bucket of BMR. So I said that that's about 70%. If I'm going to break down the other 3 things, NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, is about 15%. That is like your movement outside of intentional exercise. You're fidgeting, how you're just moving throughout the day. Your thermic effect of food, digestion, is about 10%. And now the more protein you eat, the more calories you burn just digesting your food. Fun fact. And then exercise, like intentional exercise, is really only about 5% of daily calories burned. So we're I see so many women putting all this energy into how many calories can I burn during that 5% and totally neglecting hey, if I put more muscle mass on my body, I burn less calories in that one workout session. But whoa, it makes my body a calorie burning machine that works for me all the time. Like that's the way where we want to shift your headspace to. You're obsessing over this 5% and you're ignoring the 85% that actually moves the needle.
yeah, so I think that, and then again, this always goes back to like short term versus long term. Like you're like, well, in the moment, I'm burning this many calories and I overate this many calories. And you are like totally missing the picture for 1, 2, driving yourself absolutely crazy. And 3, do you just want to burn calories and see the scale go down? Or do you want to look fit and strong and
be healthy,
be healthy and be able to go out on vacation or go out to dinner and not be like, oh, crap, I gained 5 pounds. This is terrible. I got to burn all this off. Whereas obviously I'll use Jess and I as an example because we're here and we're talking, but Jess and I have been lifting weights for like 10 years, right? Maybe more. And ultimately we both have enough muscle that, ironically in 2025, we both have been in like very chaotic seasons of life where, our physique goals, I don't want to speak for you, but I think I'm being accurate when I say this, kind of took a back seat, right? We weren't in the gym
maintenance just to stay healthy is my priority because I haven't had as much time to be in the gym, like 2 days a week.
So we both have been working out less in terms of frequency per week. We still are working out, but less in frequency than we would if that was more of a priority and like actually driving physique change, which, it's important to understand that part. But metabolically, we're in such a healthy place that we can still go out to dinner. We can still go on vacation and we don't come back and have these big giant scale fluctuations because we have put so much emphasis on that 60 to 70% base metabolic rate. And that for the sake of our health, but two, that makes maintaining a physique a million times easier than if Jess and I were just calories in, calories out, constantly like in some state of restricting. That's going to serve you so much less from a sustainability point in the long run. Not to mention, I don't want to count my freaking calories forever. I want to be able to live my life and be in a metabolically flexible place. Again,
not worried
sake
about
of my
calories.
health. Yeah, but most of the time we're making those good choices. But when we do make the choice more for fun, metabolically, we're in a good place because of it.
And that's another indicator that you've lost body fat in the right way. Like a lot of people lose a bunch of weight because they burn a lot of calories a day and they ramp up cardio, they dial back food, they lose all this weight. And then as soon as they go on vacation or they take 2 months off from the gym, they see that weight come back. And that's the differentiator. I just had a conversation with a client about this who's like, oh my gosh, she has an injury right now. And she's like, this is crazy. I haven't gained any weight. And it's been 3 weeks since I worked out. And I was like, yeah, because we're not working out to keep the weight off. Like you were building muscle that whole time so that your body is burning more calories all the time so that when stuff like this pops up, you're good. That's another. So I had already talked about the one indicator is if you're eating more and you're not gaining inches, that's a great sign that you're on the right track. The second indicator is if you take time off and you're able to just maintain, that's a good indicator that you're on the right track. And then you just get right back on track. And I talk about this all the time in terms of my both rounds of pregnancy and postpartum. Everybody, and again, it was not a quick postpartum bounce back loss. Like, I mean, if you look at, I shared my journey throughout my entire both postpartum times where, okay, slow and steady. I'm not doing anything drastic. I'm not in a deficit. I'm just going back to lifting. But everybody would ask like, oh, well, what did you do? What program did you do? Okay. It's because I lifted weights for years and years and years before I gained all this weight. It's not because I did something special to get the weight off.
And it's interesting back when my very early days in like the fitness space as a trainer, I was so obsessed with like the calorie burn that happens after you do a session of HIIT that all I did was HIIT. For one, I looked like a noodle. I had no muscle on my body at all because I had no care in the
world. Through that. I went through the HIIT 6 days a week thing also.
Oh my God. I didn't want to build muscle. I didn't want to look bulky. I was so afraid of lifting heavy, blah, 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 all of these things. But there can be stress impact on your body. Absolutely. That can make fat loss harder for you, meaning it's harder to actually create a calorie deficit. But you're chasing this 5% and neglecting 95% and then wondering why you feel like you're busting your butt and working so hard. And you're like, I don't look that different, which is why, and your body adapts, right? In good ways and in bad ways. So there are people that go to Orange Theory, and it's funny, every time I say something bad about Orange Theory, I get in some kind of argument on social media, but people are like, I lost 20 pounds going to Orange Theory. And it's like, yes, because you were likely sedentary and now you are less sedentary. But if I go to Orange Theory, I'm not going to see girl could use some cardio for sure. I
might, because I don't do cardio, right? But we adapt to the thing that we haven't been doing. And the way that our body adapts to cardio is it becomes more efficient at doing cardio. So you actually end up burning less and less calories per cardio session because you become more efficient at it. Whereas the adaptation to adding muscle is burning more calories because muscle is an expensive tissue to just carry around. So don't think about how many calories are burned in the session. Think, what is the adaptation that I want from this? Do I want to become more efficient where I burn less and less calories doing cardio, or do I want to add muscle and burn more and more calories just not working out, just living my life? That's the trade-off there between, and that's why like chasing calorie burn actually eventually slows your metabolism down, because you're becoming more efficient at said cardio exercise.
Right. So then you got to burn more calories and overcome that adaptation, which is why we had a client not long ago who would constantly run and run and run and run because she's like, wants to see physique change. And we're like, okay, but like we were like, you're really pigeonholing yourself. And she would always tell us, I burn this many calories in my run. And I'm like, cool, I guess. Like that's not helpful for you at all for what your goal is.
And that's complaining about hormonal issues, issues along the way. And it's like you're tanking your system, but that's also a consequence. You're now in a sympathetic, stressed out state all the time, and your body is like scrambling for resources. You add underfeeding yourself and being in a dieted state on top of that, you're asking for hormone dysfunction in the long run. I also think it's cool. I actually saw last night on YouTube, this was just recommended to me, and this is not a podcast I tend to listen to or watch, but Mel Robbins on her podcast has had several hormone MDs, like OBGYNs and like people who specifically work with patients who are older in life, like later in life. Over and over and over again, guys, you will hear that if you add more muscle, you are going to have better longevity, and you're going to do better through peri and post menopause years too, because by only training to get skinny or burn calories and get small, you're actually doing your future self a disservice hormonally. You're going to deplete yourself of the hormones that you really need to function, to sleep well, to maintain good muscle and bone health, so that you don't end up with osteoporosis or osteopenia. Like all of these things end up actually really contributing to some scary stuff later in life if you don't focus on getting strong while you're young. I know right now we're just talking about like metabolism and yay, train to keep it off instead of burning calories, but like literally it's so important for your health.
Okay, so what actually builds a fast responsive metabolism for the sake of physique change? And what do you focus on instead of calories burned? What is most effective to drive that change that you're looking for? And building muscle takes time. The cool thing is, if you are newer to strength training and actually truly progressively overloading in your lifts, your body will be a little bit more responsive, again, because it's not adapted to that activity the way my body is. Jess's body is after lifting for 10 years. Lifting weights and adding more muscle to your frame is going to give you that higher base metabolic rate. That is the way to change that and improve that. And again, that was that 70% of the equation that matters the most, which is why I don't know a fit, strong, healthy looking person that does not incorporate strength training into their life in some capacity. Quite frankly, anyone you follow on the internet whose physique you might think looks great, I promise you they strength train. Unless your goal is to just look skinny and thin, and that's a whole nother conversation, and that's fine. That's whatever you're.
But then you can expect that there's going to be a bigger bounce back at some point, because metabolically that baseline
maintaining that's more difficult.
It's way harder to maintain.
Eating enough, especially protein. I talk about this in content all the time, that protein is one of the biggest drivers and differences between fat loss versus weight loss. Do you just want to lose weight and see the scale go down, or do you actually want to lose body fat, preserve that lean tissue that's going to make you look fit and toned and strong, or whatever word you want to use for it? That's always our priority, is fat loss over weight loss, which is why, Jess talked about earlier with like inches and eating more food and body composition changes and how beneficial that is. So protein is one of the biggest and best things. I mean, protein and lifting, Jess and I probably beat a dead horse here, and that will never change.
And then going into number 3, lifting well. Are we lifting effectively, or are we just going through the motions and doing things on repeat to check the boxes? You need to be progressively overloading in some way. So are we actually stimulating the muscles to change and to adapt in either strength or range of motion? Or am I going a little heavier, getting a couple more reps each time? Am I getting a little deeper in my range? Am I changing the tempo? This is not random. We are very, very strategic in how we program for our clients. And again, if you just do the same workout and are going with whatever the group exercise class is doing, you might see adaptation for the first couple months, and eventually your body's going to plateau unless there's some sort of strategic increase in stimulus over time.
Yep. And then rest and recovery. We definitely have a client population that comes to us that's like, well, I've had people doing 2-a-days in the gym, working out 5, 6, 7 days a week. Rest and recovery are so essential to driving physique change. And you might think that's not productive. Honestly, here's a life lesson. It's funny. I had a client, this is like a little bit off topic, but just overarching theme is she had time off of work. And she's like, I don't feel like I was as productive as I could have been. I didn't check all these things off my to-do list, but I really felt like I needed some time to like rest and recover through this week. So I did a lot more of that. And I was like, hey, just want to shift your brain here. Rest is actually extremely
That's a win.
If your body was so burnt out that you couldn't even fathom tackling your to-do list, like that is okay. And you needed that. It's the same thing in every area of life, that rest and recovery is important. The changes that you want to see in your physique, so much of those processes happen in your sleep, like literally when you're resting and recovering. Remember, lifting is a stressor on your body. It is a good stressor, but you are breaking down the muscle in the workout itself. And then you got to repair and build it back up. Otherwise, you're just beating it down and you're never giving it a chance to recover. And then you're like, I'm in the gym 6 days a week and I look the same. That's why you need rest and recovery.
Some of my favorite client transformations are the ones who are like former bodybuilders or like women who already are super, super fit and they're working out 6 days a week and they come to us, and I feel I'm programming more effectively for them, but within fewer days, where I have them do just 3 or 4 days a week, but more effective, big compound lifts. We're going harder and taking longer rests. And they're like, this isn't going to work. I'm doing less. It's not going to work. And then their before and after pictures are awesome. And it makes me so excited because, again, we're adapting them in a more strategic way to create that balance between we're still increasing volume over time. You can be effective doing it 6 days a week, but you don't need to. And realistically, usually people are more consistent if they're actually doing it less days per week, but more effective programming.
Absolutely. So, and then, I mean, we talk about hormones a lot too, but having some stability and just a general good health foundation is going to make fat loss easier to execute for some people, because when you have healthy things internally and metabolically you're healthy, creating a deficit is more is easier because you don't have to go quite as low in calories. But if you do have something underlying health-wise that maybe is down-regulating your metabolism, obviously you can still lose fat. You just may have to go lower in calories to do that. So again, we are always like, how can we make this as simple and effective and sustainable as possible? So that is one that is mentioned last because it's the smallest part of the equation. All
these other things are going to lead to stable hormones and healthier underlying functional stuff. So get muscle, eat protein, add whole foods that add colorful foods that look like the plant they grew on, and get lots of sleep and recovery, progressively overloading your lifts, and you will have a better metabolism.
So stop trying to earn your food, stop trying to burn your food off, and really just focus on, again, like Jess said, fueling and nourishing your body, building muscle, and stop looking at what calories you burned on your watch ever in the never. You never have to look at it again. I promise.
Never. I've never looked at it once. I think you said the last time you used it, I'm like, I don't actually think I've ever use that as a metric for myself. However, I would use it like to see how fast I could run on the stair climber when I was doing intentional speed training. I would use it as like a timer. Okay, when I get to 15 calories burn, I can take a break, right? But that's an arbitrary number. It wasn't because I think I actually am burning that many calories.
The cool thing is she could also just use an actual timer.
Listen, okay, I'm working with what I got at the gym.
Listen, it's okay. I used to
I was competing with myself to see how fast. Listen, now I need to explain myself. I would have clients compete with themselves on how fast they could get to that number. So the next time they would have to get there faster to the same amount.
You're also timing. You're just timing this.
Oh yeah, I'm tying in timing to progressively overload, folks. Even when we're training for cardio, we have to progressively overload or adapt in some way, or we're not going to improve, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's that. Go get strong, guys. Build some muscle. Stop trying to get skinny. Stop counting your calories burned.
That is all for today's episode, and we will see you guys next time.